Greetings, guys, again thanking you for the support you offer me by acquiring the works of the Grimorio Goetia collection, with the 72 names of the demons, as well as the Grimorium Verum Carpe Nicrum collection, although since the end of Bach 2 publisher sales of these books plummeted. That is, something prevents you from buying works of these collections, and I will be happy to know what the reason is. Maybe I can solve this if you know the reason, to understand the value of this new approach and the reason why both I as author and user. As the other people who have already acquired the books of these collections, in these collections I leave the magic sabotage made about the same names by the Kabbalists. Yes, Kabbalah is wonderful to work with God in you and the angels, but it ends there. I don't know if you know. But the Solomon was a great prophet and great king to Hebrews, nothing more. The so-called Solomon's lesser keys and major keys of Solomon are works created by ceremonial wizards, not Hebrews. I mean, they took something they thought of Solomon, but as an apprentice of magic. His own master did not support Solomon in his activities with foreign deities, even because the history of the Solomon indicates that in Hebrew philosophy working with demons is illogical. So even if I put some Hebrew notes in the works, it is only for information record. Because who is really Hebrew and practices the Kabbalah, knows that the main content to work with God and his angels is mainly by their religious writings, not the mages. This in itself nullifies the simple and petty associations that do all magic with Kabbalah. Ask or research whether any Kabbalah author related to any subject that is the same association as another religious line used in parallel also with Torah, Sefer Yetzirah and other Hebrew workspaces to Kabbalah. Therefore any Kabbalah association with other lines of fair beliefs, and just because it is incomplete, it becomes bound to failure sooner or later. So what standard do I follow in these collections? I use the pragmatic pattern. Without even the idolizing demons creating a new religion in the reverse worship of those lame, hypocritical and liars traditional right-hand religions that condemn the magic of the left hand. Nor on the other hand doing the feudal ceremonial methodology to assign to the demons the worst misfortunes that practitioners in misfortune played these summoned energies. To better understand my approach in these works, let us remember that demons is the Greek name for foreign gods. Even with their great political influence, the Romans associated them with evil by learning that the first military thing to do to conquer peoples and nations it was overthrowing his native beliefs, therefore their good and evil are in those who use them. Not in these who make the requests of those who call them become true. I know that in the petty and simplistic logic of religious worship as highlighted in our society more to create or maintain human slaves of their dogmas implies a religious worship, but today this does not work with demons. Therefore excluded any worship or condemnation. I know that when you chain your practice in the traditional literary pattern that deals with the magic theme, it is difficult to find works that question the old worn and inefficient traditional standard Kabbalistic that outside the Hebrew religion does not work for any crap. Which when brought to practice this material only serves to the sooner or later stubbest more people in religious temples as subjects of these same religions, but life teaches us that against facts there are no arguments. Dogma in your success, in your practice answers your doubts automatically. Especially for how each thing will cost you, far from that crazy thing of you repeating phrases by declaring yourself the most powerful person in the universe, ignoring that it will make the changes in reality acting on it, and not command it, of course. I assume that even if you are economically very powerful person, you know how valuable it is to make allies and partners, than opponents and competing, so unnecessary explain how to behave with those who surround you, if you do not know. There is no better way than living with people who you will have as allies to act with you instead of them acting against you. It is not the repetition of theories that brings excellence, but repetition of your practice. This is why these works serve. Practice and focused exclusively on your success, so I repeat that it really has a lot of material, content and plenty of activities for you to set up your coven, cave, sect or even a left-wing religion. This with a lot of interactivity. In the first volume introduction there are many individual development options in magic, so that in knowing the individual techniques of you practicing magic lonely, you can adapt these techniques to each daemon with which it will then operate in the other 3 volumes, high hierarchy, low hierarchy and forgotten. In fact, one thing that I always forget to emphasize, in the method of reaching the holy guardian angel of Abramelin, the process is through demons, not angels. Only for this reason I hope that you understand the need for the human being to develop itself by the fulfillment of our will, not to obey a universal planning under the command of heavenly beings. Okay, justice is for everyone and will only reap tomatoes who plant tomatoes. But regardless of the universal disorganization that someone's will, it is in this change of the commonplace that things happen, otherwise follow the natural course of events, but to understand some many options to intervene their wishes. In the Grimorium Verum Carpe Nicrum collection in the first volume, the introduction, just to cite examples of activities covered, has all the guidance to work with sigils, offerings and altars, oils and incense, candles, herbs, prayers, talismans and enchantments, magic nodes, glory hand, dolls, pacts, imps, crossroads, etc. In case you organize your coven, cave, sect, or even a left-wing religion is sensational content to train new neophytes, people to get in your group with a lot of experience, and the good thing is that when working with the other books at least of the same collection, you will be able to expand all the techniques learned far beyond the manual, to adapt to any name with which you will operate, each with activities consistent with your particular line of action. I really thank you all the people who choose my electronic books to or buy them, or read borrowed at Kindle Unlimited. I remember that although we seem that we authors have not gained anything from it, the more people rent to read the electronic books. Understand that it is your reading that pays us. Of course, if you rent and return without reading the work, neither you read nor we, authors people, earn anything, as I now offer works exclusively by KDP. It is through Amazon that you will get my works and many other authors who also offer them access by the same system by paying only a fixed monthly fee. In my case, several previously printed works are now available because they have now been converted to electronic books. Available for you to lend these electronic books on the Kindle Unlimited model, and you can store them on your Kindle reader until you return them, just as you do with others' works by other authors, whatever the theme they may be. So, before buying my electronic or printed books or from other authors, you can to know the material, and then, if you like it, then buy. And the good thing is that Kindle Unlimited has a limit only to put 20 electronic books in your account, but infinite when you return one and lend another. Of course, you can make this exchange for new books for the payment of the monthly fee. It's over the month, you pay a new month and get another month to lend new electronic books. Remember, the monthly fee is to lend new electronic books when you can take an electronic book without obliging them to return them, even with the monthly fee no longer effective. But let's go, the rest of this video today is short but very interesting. Further broaden the usefulness of the origins of this pathworking, and my own book. This daemon name was addressed only in the magic with the sacred guardian angel of Abramelin, the magician. With the proper guidance that was missing in the original I passed in my book/ebook Pathworking Magic of Abramelin. Here and now I offer a new activity for those who go through difficulties that require prerogatives to make separations than to worry about the separations that are already determined. Just like cooks long before they make great dishes to be divided with, several people need to know how many divisions will be performed to decide how much precise ingredients. This activity also focuses on ingredients, then on the plate to be divided. This is essential when fair because we know that some separation will be done. We need to deal with previous requirements and later consequences about us, especially in the professional and economic sector, as well as the culinary, of course. So today it follows as an exclusive expansion of the ebook or printed pathworking for the Abramelin standard, both today in Portuguese and Spanish and English. This new unprecedented activity is to further enjoy the practical pathworking material that have already acquired. According to the proposal of the electronic book, here at
Chaos Magic Time.
Let's go to today's theme about daemon treated in Code 2.08. This activity today is for you to make preparations for a change, or deal with the consequences of separations or divisions. Briefly, the separations seem negative, especially when it is something we have and pass on to others. However, when taking an entrepreneurial stance, for example, any condominium is exactly this: when a person or group owners of a land divided to new owners acquire their parts and multiplying their return mainly by their appreciation, this magic and in association with this example. It will also then operate with the management of this division and especially for the valorization of these divisions to bring more prosperity to those people who were their owners, or we can also compare to the pass of a sports star in a sport team, which when very high the value. Partnerships are made to complete the amount required to be invested in the pass of it, thus being separated or divided the participation and their returns of this investment. Even restaurants, analyzing the average of customers, need to support their stock of ingredients to always be able to meet the needs of consumers, and then manage the effects of this proper division made with satisfaction or not of people clients, in the abilities of this name in its mythology. We remember that it already has a suggestion in the work to deal with the separation itself. however, here is necessary a complement so that through pathworking can have full service. So this time, the recommended suggestion is for the pathworking of Code 2.08 for people who go through a certain short or long term so that they can plan things to reduce the losses to the maximum and multiply earnings all over in all division or separation those people will have. You can also manage everyday events by inserting this methodology even mechanically, when these needs are habitual, again emphasizing that the experience that brings excellence, of course, any and all divinatory means you use can always and will be very useful to get a posture in what will operate. Especially when you have the support of this name in Code 2.08.
So, what is the name of this activity today?
This new activity that I will pass to you so we can deal with the previous requirements and read with the consequences of separations and divisions in our personal path today is unprecedented in the ebook and in the book Magic Pathworking by Abramelin, the wizard that I gave the name of before and after.
What it is, how it works.
The worst thing that surrounds us when we have a separation or division is the impact of the unknown. However, when we already know that will occur and how it will happen, or by how many people it will be divided, then we need to deal with the circumstances to lose the least before the division happens and then, at least to survive. I know this can yield a huge drama, but magic is at least for that to reduce the effects to a bearable level, as a natural consequence, if the separation was not planned before. Panic is natural, but also if you do not manage before and during after, the results of the separation will also be catastrophic, by both positive and negative divisions are very variable. The way it will deal with previous needs with later management is closed in each circumstance. Thus pathworking seeks to bring options to reverse catastrophe that the lack of options in events brings, but constructively, with something you can do and always use to bring you solutions that you were looking for instead of problems, no matter how long it is your application. As we find our possibility to bring and apply our efforts on solutions, concerns are no longer torment and become reason to increasingly bring our commitments.
How does pathworking help to plan and deal with separation consequences in this profound crisis?
I know that when talking about global economic crises, since 1929 in the New York stock market crisis, that easily manageable centralized economy model soon comes to light as parallel to our reality, but the world has changed a lot and is increasingly decentralized. That plot of first world, second world, and third world misfortunes was very effective until the 1980s. But it is over and we need to see the world as it is differente now, for those who have doubts of the difference, thinking that the same impact will be on Brazil as in 1931. When the impact of that crisis of 1929 has come here, now there is a hell of a difference because the world economy since 2010 is not centered exclusively to what Europe and America do north decide. The catastrophes there are finally clear, bringing increasing misfortune to such localities that the rest of the world does not want for themselves. They paint a disgrace in the world caused by their shits and the bad military and political management of Ukraine. In fact, since 2014, a country without its own military forces but a stronghold with chemical weapons factories owned by some people of members of the New World Order or the New Reset who financed the defense of their property by a group of Nazi mercenaries. And think the world will play this misfortune to the world and to the real Ukrainian people themselves, far from reality, by the way. The largest transition showing the dissatisfaction of the world with this clowning theater with the world was in the same case, when some nations, Brazil and China admittedly and then others, they wiggled the financial base, no longer using the dollar as ballast for the ballast international trade and ending that old theater of the world's economic scissors, finished. It has changed everything, and those who now make international transactions with their own currencies greatly value the homeland currency. Thus, again, the Pixelico CPX took a new wave of luck by its pen by approving this with the appreciation of the real coin every day for the continued work of the Brazilian agriculture mentors, bringing more resources to Brazil than any other reason, of course. Coupled with the shit acts of Europeans and Americans managers increasingly screwing their agricultural production either by the discharge of absurd interest or by suicidal measures, mainly in Europe. So I hope you understand that Brazil has extended even more time the coming of the world cries with it. Other countries such as Saudi Arabia, Iran and Russia realized that they can now overcome mainly the boycott of Russia in the same way. With countries that have not fallen into the trap of this built catastrophe since investors of the nickname New World Order or the New Reset and still trade among themselves. I think with this they realize the implicit example of this need to plan separations before and after the separation itself, but in a global context.
Okay, it presented the example of global level, But what strategy to prepare in pathworking prior procedures and even after separation?
I know that in this very old catastrophe that the media taught us and programmed us to live in the world of fantasy, fiction, made generations of people who were alienated by the news coming to this theater of the misfortunes built dictating how we should behave. But who did not mature before either now mature to get out of this mental pollution bubble or it was already off reality. Anyone who has not done so shuts off the emulating canvases of a fictional happiness and returns to the reality of your world that surrounds you. Instead of what the world of what should be, otherwise the account comes and you will not have how to survive, aware that we now need to insert our will in reality, thus becomes implicit in what I told you now that you must plan things before they happen. So that you then have a scenario that is favorable to deal with the consequences, that's simple, nothing but that and nothing less than that. Of course, external factors influence the results, but their impact will be as little as possible, as much as possible to plan separations. So that it can also manage results from them as long as it plans the possibilities in advance. It's the old saying, better prevent than sorry.
Miss a lot for me to be happy. How do I guarantee results without resources?
This question is the synthesis of what you will find out when doing pathworking with Daemon of Code 2.08. Understand that the world is always in transition, so it is a right to believe in a ready and written destination, while observing things happen and the growing misfortune involves you. As I told you, this posture of submission to reality will charge you a higher value than what you have, regardless of how much you think you are self-sufficient person. Through this pathworking will operate with the resources it has to reduce the costs of separation and reap as many results of this management as much as possible.
What does the Holy Guardian Angel have to do with it?
As I made a point of emphasizing, a poorly planned separation is at least the first step for an imminent tragedy if there were no other some tragedies before, during, and after. On the contrary, when you plan the separation previously, it is calm that only those who do this can declare the reduction of conflicts and headaches avoided, as your holy guardian angel acts mainly in what people carefree with the separations and your consequences can provide. This is a procedure that can form a standard for you to increasingly be able to deal with these situations, mainly because it has trained by the experiences with each. Sometimes do this with better effectiveness in advance to tragedies. That's it, guys, you can perform this activity anywhere. Since you are able to relax and conditions to perform it, usually the result of your development with meditation. I know that in our increasingly accelerated society, in our anxiety rate, more and more people are seeking to develop their own concentration mainly. But it is precisely where there is already a field to improve. How are you who define how and where you need to develop? To get to your success requires you to practice the more you can. This video was not so long, but finally, those who can help me abroad also acquiring ritual booklets. Are notes of pocket-size blocks with pages in blank or government-related guidelines to keep writings exclusively to magic, while at the same time, a portal for pathworking in the cover itself, so they already offer resource for your activities in this standard. Just look for Notebook and Tesla D. Murbox, these pocket books, each on the cover with the confidentiality of one of the 72 demons of Goetia. So I thank your presence and wish you a great week. Big hug, Wienand.